Oh,
Okay, I'm here. Is my audio coming through okay?
yeah, I hear you.
Okay, man. So you said that you think pronatalism is unethical. What's your argument for that?
Um, the fact that it is exploitative, the fact that it is a guaranteed cause of harm to the subject that will be brought into existence. You're
I
entering
see.
them into a number of different negative lotteries that someone has to win, so you're essentially gambling with their life. Um, are you familiar with the asymmetry?
Darling. Yes, sir.
So are you familiar with the asymmetry that Benatar talks about?
Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with it. I don't know why I should accept it, but I have a couple of questions for what you just outlined already.
Sure. Yeah.
So, what you said that you take into account some like deontic values that you have. You see it as intrinsically exploitative. You see it as bringing a harm into the world. My question to you is that are you taking into consideration like other external variables, like other than the human, the what you call the exploitative human factor and the human suffering? Are you taking like other variables, like would it like create more or suffering or less, or would it prevent suffering in the natural world if we brought more humans into existence? Are you taking that into consideration as well, or are you just taking
Yeah.
into
Well,
consideration the
the thing is, I don't know how to quantify that.
sure, okay, and but do you agree that okay, there's two possible things that we could do. We could choose to breed and like increase the amounts of humans on the face of the earth, or we could choose to stop breeding and decrease the amount of humans on earth. Do you agree that like if we decided to spread more humans throughout the face of the earth, we would at the same time be decreasing the amounts of like by creating human infrastructure on the face of the earth, etc. We would be like minimizing the amount of wild animal suffering that goes on in nature by having more humans on the face of the earth.
Um, I've heard. Yeah. So I guess the idea is like more humans, the more we blacktop everything. I don't know that like
Because even if you found that intrinsically exploitative, I don't think I share that value. I don't find it intrinsically exploitative to bring humans to existence. But even if you do, that's gonna like there's gonna be some negative consequences that are gonna be outweighed by having more humans in existence.
mhm. Would you call that a utilitarian position?
No, I'm not a utilitarian myself. I have some deontology on my values. I just don't see how it is exploitative to bring humans to existence. I don't share that
Well,
view.
can you name one unselfish reason to I mean, like this is a funny question because I believe there's really no there's no decision anyone can make that isn't unselfish. So I usually like to ask, can you name one unselfish reason to create someone? And then can you pair that with it also being ethical?
Sure, I can think of a couple of reasons you might want to like increase the amount of well-being in the earth by creating a happy mind. That would be an unselfish reason in my view, or one would be, by bringing humans into existence, you would be decreasing the number of unhappy minds in the universe, like wild animal suffering, wild animals. So
Mm.
whether or not you
So
consider that selfish is gonna depend on like a problem in philosophy called like psychological egoism. We don't know if like there's any human motivation that is not driven by unselfish
right.
desires. I don't know. I'm agnostic
So
about it.
the fact like I do believe that basically these are all ego-driven facts or sorry, ego-driven decisions, and we actually don't like. There's a great chance that that person will be unhappy. I'm not saying that they couldn't be happy, but there's a great chance they'll be unhappy. Most of the people
Well,
that want
empirical claim.
what?
That would be an empirical claim. I don't know. I don't know why
Right,
we'd
we don't
assume
know. I'm saying it's a
likely that would be
gamble.
unhappy.
There's a gamble. I'd say we have give reference for, you know, the fact that many people are brought here and experience unhappiness and also create unhappiness for others, like in very large amounts. And
By the way, I'm curious. What's your normative ethics? Like, what are you taking into consideration here? Do you only care about utility and this utility? You care about other. It sounds like you have some
I'm
deontology there.
I'm not like totally sure like where I generally take things on a case by case basis nowadays. Used to really say, "Oh, I lean way more towards deontology," but now I think it's just silly to say that I'm more one thing than another because I just think that it's hard to decide what we would do for every single situation.
Okay, but
So
what do
I
you
mean,
usually mean when you use the word unethical? When you use the word bad, what do you usually mean? Do you mean that it creates suffering? Do you mean that it violates
yeah.
rights? What do you usually
So
mean?
basically, what I think of ethics as pertaining to actions and how they correlate with our moral framework. Like, obviously, we all have our own subjective moral framework. Most people, most people have very overlapping views on morality, and that is why that's what makes it so easy to debate people on veganism because, we can corner them really easily using their own moral framework and showing them how you know, they're not logically consistent. Um,
I
so
see.
basically, yeah, I agree with human rights. Obviously, I think veganism is the logical extension of that. Uh, I, if you look, not saying that we always have to be true to every definition of a word, but if you look at the definition of veganism, it's to avoid animal exploitation and cruelty as far as possible and practicable. I
I don't go
don't
by the vegan society definition myself.
Okay. Yeah, see, but because personally I do, and I don't see a way to create someone that isn't exploitative and isn't cruel because you're putting them in a place where they're going to experience pain, like pain, harm, suffering, and death. And a lot of the people that, well, not a lot, pretty much every person that brings someone into existence, someone that hasn't even lived a full life yet and hasn't even experienced death. And obviously, it's not possible for someone to die and then bring someone into existence. But basically, people are kind of, in a way, endorsing it, saying, no, this is worth it without having even experienced it themselves. Um, and to me, that's just crazy. I've seen so much fucked up shit happen to people I would never wanna, like, gamble with someone's life and say, like, "This is okay for me to impose on someone else."
Okay,
And then, I get what you're
can I
saying
jump
about.
in? Are you done with what you're saying, or I can jump in to ask something?
No, 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 go ahead.
Yeah, because the reason I asked you if you take into consideration like externalities other than like the suffering of the human in question that you bring into existence is because I do think that you would. It seems that you have some deontology in your values, you have some utilitarianism, you care about decreasing suffering, you also care about rights violations. It seems to me that by bringing humans into the world, we are actually decreasing suffering and rights violation in the natural world. So that's my argument in favor of natalism is that it seems to be the case that by having more humans on the face of the earth rather than less humans or no humans, we're gonna decrease the amount of wild animals that are gonna be they're gonna be out in nature suffering, like without like health care. They're gonna be like ripping each other to pieces through predation. Like if you like if humanity becomes extinct, like the alternative to humanity would be like a fucking planet that is like god forsaken, full of wild animals, like horrifically in horrific conditions. Like why would I want a planet like that? I would want to increase the amount of like happy minds and well-being, and it seems to be the case that by bringing more humans into existence, that's exactly what I'm achieving. And at the same time, I'm going to be displacing certain amount of wild animals by spreading human infrastructure on the face of the earth. Because do you do agree that we have two options, right? We have the option to increase the amount of humans through procreation, or to decrease the amount of humans by choosing to not procreate. Do you agree that the more humans that are going to be spread across the face of the earth, the less amount of wild animals are going to be there in the places where the human infrastructure is built, right?
I mean, it depends what species adapt, and I don't. It's possible. It seems like that's the case, but like for example, just an example, you go to like Florida, and you think, okay, they blacktopped all this area there. There's all these parking lots, but now the parking lots have sort of developed their own ecosystem where there's this African lizard that was brought over here in the 70s and is now like just boomed, and these
Sure,
parking
sure, man.
lots are
I
full
understand that. I
with these
understand that, but
lizards.
what
It's just like a whole new system there. And
understand.
well,
I understand the point you're
either
bringing
way,
up.
but
That's why I
see,
want to see where do you think less suffering is gonna be happening? Do you think there's gonna be less suffering in an empty parking lot, or do you think there's gonna be less suffering in a like acre of wild uh wild
the,
area
the
with a bunch of like
the park my
hitting
point
each
is the
other and a
parking
bunch of like
lots.
predators? Yeah.
My point is the parking lot's not empty. I see what you're saying. You're saying if there's a lot of wild vegetation and stuff, maybe there's more space for like it. I would say for the very least insects to be predating each other more easily. But um, I don't know. There's a lot of animals getting run over in parking lots. These lizards are like attacking the birds that are in the parking lots, and I don't know who eats the lizards there. Um, but either way, it seems like you're right. If there's more um, wild area that's blacktopped, it seems like there will be less rights violations occurring. Either way, I don't know how do we quantify that because
And
or
if that's the case,
I don't know how
it
we
seems to you like that. Yeah,
I
yeah, go
don't
ahead.
know
Sorry.
how we so we look at like the amount of animals that are being harmed by humans right now in the trillions, and how can we say that compares to what like wild animals are doing to each other on top of it? And I
Sure,
know
sure. So,
the
so the way it
idea
compares,
is
like
that
I wanna respond to that. So the way it compares is that it seems to me very certain that the future is vegan. We're gonna go vegan eventually, be it by lab grown meat, but like by activism, like spreading vegan wisdom, whatever way we achieve it. It seems to me that the future is gonna go vegan. But if humanity ceases to exist, like wild animal suffering and rights violation is gonna exist in perpetuity. It's gonna exist forever until the planet itself perishes. So that seems to me, like mathematically, it's obvious to me that that's gonna be worse long term, because like
so
the meat industry
I see what you're
the meat
saying. You're
industry is named
banking
the meat industry, sorry, this I'm just gonna finish the point. The meat industry's days are numbered. The meat industry is gonna be abolished anytime soon, but wild animal suffering is gonna continue eternally, especially if humanity ceases to exist. That the only species that is capable of doing something about it, the only species that is capable of intervening in the natural world.
um It seems, yeah, I guess that is the case right now. But a few other things that I'm worried about. Well, one, you're banking on the fact that, yeah, we're gonna have this vegan world at some point. It's possible. I don't know. I think that a
Yeah,
lot of us,
I believe it's
I think
inevitable.
a lot of
I
us are
agree.
in our
Actually,
own
my
little
view is that it's inevitable.
I think a lot of us are in our own little bubbles, like our vegan bubbles, where we're just like still really we really don't I know you're out there, you're talking to people, so I'm not trying to say that like you don't see the rest of what's going on, but like I don't know, when I drive through the South sometimes I just I lose a lot I lose a lot of hope. But another thing that I was thinking about, which I talked about in a
Well, I'm
live
more
stream with
optimistic
George
about it,
Martin.
especially considering the advent of lab grown meat. I think that's gonna just make the meat industry completely obsolete. But yeah, that's near here or there.
Hopefully, because
I'm
I
just
mean,
more optimistic about that.
you got people like fucking DeSantis here who's like banning lab grown meat in the whole states. You know, it's just
Sure,
ridiculous.
sure.
But
There's gonna be some retardation on the meantime, but I think eventually like good ideas win out.
either way, there's a few other things that I'm concerned about here, which is one, the fact that like I think it's also possible that humans can make things a lot worse for animals and everyone. It's possible with technology that humans can create some kind of hell on Earth. Um, and I don't know, like that to me, that doesn't seem too far fetched either. I think it could go either
Well, man,
way.
it is a bit of a gamble, but I don't see how that hell could be any worse than the nature itself. Like I'll ask you, like what kind of planet you want to be born in? Like a like godforsaken planet full of like wild animals that just fucking predate on each other and then have no fucking modern medicine. They just like fucking abandoned beings in a corner of like fucking horrific planet. Or would you, you choose to live in a planet with like human infrastructure, technology, and modern medicine, and like police and all this stuff that, and with the capability to making the world better? Sure, it is a sort of a gamble where like some person in power, like a fucking Hitler of some sort, can create a fucking Holocaust. But we have actually have the possibility to make things better, unlike in a natural in a planet full of wild animals with no sapient being washing over it. Like, what kind of planet would you prefer? Like a planet with sapient beings in charge, basically, where we have the possibility to intervene about wild animal suffering and whatnot, or is it like fucking hellhole full of wild animals raping each other, killing each
Well, I certainly would like obviously less harm and less rights violations. But I okay, one of the things I can't get over though is like why is that the problem of the unborn person? Like that's our problem because we're already here. But why should we put all of that on the shoulders of, you
sure,
know,
because it's the only way to stop it.
what?
Yeah, it's the only way. It's the only way to stop the
It's
stop
so
like massive amount of
it's
fertility and
just
rights
like
violation.
it's kind of it's just like so it's like it sucks to be you, kid, but that's the way it's got to
I
be. Yeah,
don't
like
see it like that. I don't see it like that. It's possible that you see it like that. Maybe you see it as a lesser of two evils. Yeah, it's kind of immoral to bring life into existence, but it is
I
gonna end
I
up decreasing the amount of
I would
suffering
hate I
and
just
decreasing the
Uh,
amount of violence.
Harry,
But
may I
I
chime in for
personally
a
don't.
moment,
Sorry, I just
please?
want to finish my point. It doesn't seem to
Yeah,
be
yeah, I'll
anyway.
let you finish.
I lost my train of thought anyway. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I'm
Yeah, you
sorry, I
can go
didn't
ahead,
mean
Edna.
to cut you off.
No
No, I
worries.
just
No
on the
worries.
position. Sorry, my I've never done something like this before, so I'm a little bit nervous. You'll have to forgive me. I've actually watched your channel and Vegan Equilibrium's channel for a while now. So my question about in relation to whether it's a lesser of two evils to bring a child into existence in order to prevent further suffering in the future. what would your position on extinctionism be
I'm not an
as a
extinctionist.
solution?
No, no,
Yes, I understand, but as
I don't favor a
what
solution
would
at
your
all.
position on extinctionism as a solution? What
Define
would your position on
extinctionism.
that be?
Can you define extinctionism first?
Uh, eradicating all life on Earth.
No, I would be completely against that. Why would I? No, why would I do that? I think it is a good thing to
Well,
have a
I'm trying
happy mind.
to understand your position in regards to whether or not that is a viable solution. You know, because you've mentioned two dichotomies. There's a dichotomy of bringing a
Yep.
child into existence in order to prevent suffering in the future, or to, you know, to to not have children and to, you know, reduce the human population and then increase the risk of wild animal suffering. Or sorry, rather, I'm sorry, rather it. Uh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
No worries, man. You can take your
I'm
time.
really I've never been in this kind of position before, trying to debate on this
No worries,
subject.
man.
I've
I
thought
appreciate
about it
that.
a lot, so I'm very nervous. But yeah, I mean, there's the okay, so there's two kind of options being brought up here in this conversation, you know, and I'm wondering about your position on the third one, whether or not you can actually make a rational argument against extinctionism being a viable solution to the suffering of all beings.
So the first question would be, what exactly do you mean by extinctionism? Do you mean like just like killing all life on Earth, like just violating the right to life? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Well, I mean, you know,
Like, is
the
that
question
effortless
now
or is that something else?
I mean, I suppose it fits into evilism, but I mean, I don't really know exactly if whether or not there are specific differences
Yeah,
between the two positions.
There are.
yeah. I be.
Ephilism is its own thing, and it has actually like a specific stated premise that that guy Amendum put forward, and uh, I I think you can separate extinctionism from ephilism, and I would just encourage people to stay away from the idea of ephilism because it's attached to unsavory things. But anyway,
Yes, with yeah,
continue.
Emendum being the kind of the father of evilism. Yeah, I
Right.
know there's a lot of controversy behind that.
Sure,
I mean,
and
okay, so
I don't favor. So my position on that is that I don't think it ends like on this planet itself. Like, okay, let's say we end all life on this planet. I think that's immoral, by the way. I think it would be immoral to just violate every single being's right to life and kill them. But even if we do that, okay, we ended all suffering in this planet. But what about outside this planet? There's gonna be like other planets, presumably, and other galaxies of beings suffering. So
What are really the odds that
well,
we're gonna get there? What are the odds that
well,
we're gonna?
that's
I
a
mean,
critical question.
I
I don't
think
know.
it's irrelevant.
I think that it's a certain
I don't think
certain.
it's relevant.
My position is this.
I
I
think
don't think
My position is that
to
I think
discuss
humans should
life. Go on. Sorry.
either humans should continue spreading on the face of the earth, or find technology. I mean, I favor finding technology to either like become machines, like some sort of like transhumanism, and leave this planet behind and like veganize other areas of the univerence. I'm in favor of that. Like, if we just end all,
well, here's the thing. I'm all for
we're gonna end. Sorry,
transhumanism. Yeah.
let me just finish. We're gonna like end all possibility to make other areas of the universe better if we just kill the only sapient species here.
But what we do not know is not our responsibility, right? Our responsibility is in regards to what we do know. We don't even know if there is life outside of Earth.
I don't know why
So
that would matter.
may I
Like,
jump in here real quick?
Well,
we don't
it
know.
matters. It matters
It is
because
possible.
the suffering on Earth will continue as long as we exist, right? And we try to, I mean, yes, we try to improve suffering. We try to reduce it as much as we possibly can. But as long as life exists, suffering also exists. And
there's
We
there's
can
a
only
few
really
things
operate
like
off of what we
Not
understand.
necessarily, right? Not necessarily. There could
Yes,
be a
necessarily.
theoretical
yes,
view. So let
Well,
me
I'm
just
talking. Okay,
theoretically.
can I? Yeah, just let me
Sorry. Let
make
me
one
just respond to your point.
clarifying point. Just let me
Okay,
make
sure.
one quick clarification. I'm talking
Sure,
about
go
the
for it.
process of reaching transhumanism. I'm talking about that stage. I'm not talking about after transhumanism. Just to make that clear.
do we find it
Okay, sure.
odd that
So
like there's
let
this
me respond to
idea
those two things.
that
Let me respond to that. Sure. Let me respond to Liam really quick. You can jump in. I just want to respond to Liam really quick. Yes, I do think that the suffering of life right now does the goods of life justify some amount of suffering. But yes, I don't see it as like intrinsically impossible or something to like end the suffering. Like I it's theoretically possible to end suffering. But anyway, you can respond, man.
I
Okay,
just
yeah.
there's
Oh,
just
sorry. Go on, Liam.
there's just a few things I wanted to comment on. One, that I think it's a lot of hubris to just like think, oh, we're gonna make everything better. I know what you're saying. You're saying, okay, like we have the capacity to, and you're banking on the vegan world, but I don't see that we've done made things that much better yet. And I think it's like also funny that this idea, oh, the more humans, the more like wild area we'll inhabit where we'll blacktop, and it's like gonna require humans to destroy so many like so much so many animals' lives just to say like in the long run alleviate a lot of or get rid of a lot of rights violations like and it's
A couple of
non
things there. So a couple of things
wait,
that if I
I
can
want to
jump
say
in.
a few
Sure.
more things. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
want to say a few more things.
sure.
uh and it's also the main the main driver of deforestation and destruction of wild habitats right now is non-vegan things like animal agriculture. um I just it's all of this just seems like very strange to me, and I still have a very hard time saying, oh, I'm going to enter this person into all these different like negative lotteries that someone has to win, and I'm going to sentence them to death because I have this notion that the humans species as a whole, as long as we keep procreating, might make things like a lot better than they otherwise would be. And I just don't have as much faith in humanity as you do, and I just don't
Sure,
think
I think
that
it comes down to like a
I
difference in
don't think that
values
like
or in
hurting
optimism.
someone I don't think that like hurting someone is worth it. Like I don't think it's I just can't be like, yeah, I'm gonna put you in a position to get really fucked up and be scared of death and then experience death just because of this idealistic future I have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of
Harry,
things
can
there
I
that I wanted to
ask?
respond. Sure, just
Okay,
throw
go on.
around a
Go on.
bunch
No,
of things. So
yeah, yeah. You go ahead.
I want to respond to a couple of things at a time. Okay, so like you said something about it being hubris to want to like intervene in the natural world. I don't see it like that at all. Like I think there's no god, so it's like left to us basically to like fucking be god and try to take care of a sentient life. It's left to the sapient species to play god's role, as there's no fucking god. It's a godless universe in my view. So that's one thing. I don't see it as hubris at all. I see it as doing the right thing, trying to take care of sentient life in the universe. And the second thing, you said something. I just want to understand what you think about the position, right? There's two options: is to breed and to multiply the amounts of humans. And my argument is this: if it's the case that like increasing the amount of humans is gonna end up decreasing the amount of wild animal suffering and rights violation, then we should increase the amount of humans. It seems to be the case that that's true. So therefore, we should increase the amount of humans. Like,
So,
what do you think
so
about
why
that?
not?
So
So,
let me ask you
I
something. Like,
mean,
there's options. There's two options.
so
I just want
should
to
I?
understand what do you think.
Well,
I just want to understand. I just want to understand what do you think is the more ethical option. So there's two options.
I
One,
mean, I think
increase.
that's like
Yeah.
a
So
black and white. I,
let me please ask the question. So the question is this: one, increase the amount of humanity per like a square mile, and therefore decrease the amount of wild animals procreating and eating each other and suffering. And or the second option, like decrease the amount of humanity to up to extinction, and
yeah, well, you can't.
thereby like increasing the amount of wild animal procreation and rights violation. Those are the two options. I just want to understand which of the two options you think is the most ethical.
I mean, from the way that you're saying it, obviously, if we have to choose one, I guess I would go with the one that creates less harm and less rights violations. But I don't.
Sure, yeah,
But
and
to
that's the
me,
situation we're in.
to me, that's very black and white
Can I
thinking,
just
and it's.
quickly ask Harry a
Well,
question?
I just want to say, I think it's an oversimplification of the
No,
situation that we're in, and
it's just
and
mathematically like the game is
I
mathematically
don't think
obvious.
it's
Like the more amount,
mathematically. No,
the
with
amount of
all due respect,
the
all
more
due
humans
respect,
and human
I don't.
infrastructures per acre, and the less amount of like wild nature, the fucking nature areas are gonna be. It's obvious.
With all due respect, Harry, I don't think that you have like a way to really calculate in the greater scheme of things how much suffering or rights violations we've prevented. And I mean, by that token, I'm wondering, and I'm not making a statement about this, I'm just wondering, do we then also have a duty to just go and kill animals anywhere we want? And are we
No,
also morally obligated to have at least some people force some people to procreate?
I don't understand the second part of the question.
So we're talking about decreasing wildlife, which decreases rights violations. And you know what? I am in favor of culling all odd order predators. So, we're kind of on the same page there. But it just
Based.
what about wildlife in general? Like, should we just kill any can we just kill any wildlife indiscriminately? And
No, no.
also,
So this is my position. This is my position on that. I think we should non-violently displace them. So we need to like slowly encroach in their territory and slowly create human infrastructure areas. But I'm in favor of like putting them in like sanctuary and stuff like that. I'm not in favor of just hunting them down. No, I'm against that. Unless they're other predators.
I mean, but like if you're it's okay, but if you're blacktopping an area, I mean, how do you take care of that? Are you gonna be are you saying we need to meticulously go through and make sure that like there's literally no animals left in that swath of land before we cut it all down, or?
No, not necessarily. And there's like pragmatic reasons why wouldn't make sense to care about that. So like there's gonna be a certain amount of animals that is not pragmatic to move. Like there's gonna be insects that
But then
you know
why not
I see a
just
symmetry very clear in the insect which are like it's not even certain they're sentient. They could be, but most insects are like I think carnivores anyway or omnivores. Anyway, you were saying?
no, I agree, but then my other thing was, so is it the case that some people, not necessarily everyone, but some people would be obligated to procreate, like morally obligated to?
Take a hard stance of that. I don't know. I haven't thought about if we have a moral obligation for some people to spread. I think it is virtuous. I think it is a good thing that they choose to procreate in a lot of cases, not in every case. But whether or not it's a moral obligation, I'm kind of agnostic about that. I don't know.
Um, okay, well, I will agree on your point that if if there being more humans equals fewer rights violations and less overall harm and suffering, um, then yes, within given two options, that it would be more moral to perhaps sacrifice a number of human beings to keep yeah, lead to that greater good or whatever. But
I know. Can
my
I
I
ask Harry?
Okay.
I just
Okay.
want to ask
sorry,
Sure.
Harry
I
because
just want to finish
I
my
want to
statement.
understand his.
I would just like
Yeah,
to
I
finish
know,
my
but I just want to understand something about his position in regards to it being deontological. It sounds to me as though your position is more negative utilitarianism than it is,
No,
the ontological one. Can you
no.
clarify it to me in what
I'm
way
not a
it's
negative.
the ontological?
I'm not.
Yes, okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna
I
clarify.
would just
Sure.
appreciate if you
So
could explain it to me. Yes.
a couple of things. So I'm not a negative utilitarian because I don't only care about reducing this utility. I also care about increasing well-being, and I also care about reducing the amount deontic.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Sorry,
Can
you
you
cut off a
repeat
bit.
that
Can you
last
repeat it?
sentence?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, sure. So the reason I'm not negative utilitarian is because I also care about increasing utility, and I also care about decreasing rights violations. So that would be the ontic.
Okay. I understand, but I suppose maybe I'm not that philosophically literate. But I mean, isn't the purpose of negative utilitarianism to reduce the harm in order to create a better opportunity for well-being, or just the
No,
lack thereof?
no, that wouldn't be negative utilitarianism right there. Like negative utilitarians
Okay.
only
Okay.
they
Yeah.
only care about decreasing this utility. They don't give a fuck about well-being.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I understand now. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
So yeah, I just want to
So
finish.
it sounds to me like my friend animal liberation. It sounds to me like if my argument goes through, it seems to me like you are like natalist for pragmatic reasons. You even if you like
Uh,
you think it's like unethical to bring humans, you would still say it would be ethical if the empirics go through that it decreases right
well,
violations and
it,
suffering.
it feels like it's hard because don't want to say I don't want to say no. I don't care about the fact even if it reduced harm and rights violations all around. Like it's hard for me to say that, right? Because then I feel like I'd be a hypocrite or I just wouldn't be logically consistent. Uh, it's really tough for me to say.
Well, not
But the thing,
necessarily in all areas. You don't need to be certain about it decreasing suffering and right violation in literally all areas. It just needs to be the case that on average, like the I just asked you, what do you prefer? Like a square mile of humans with police and modern medicine, or a square mile of fucking wildland with godforsaken animals like predating on each other?
um, I
Isn't just
it's not
intuitive to you
hey, actually,
that
like,
they
dude, it is
But is
for
it?
me, it's a hard question. I honestly don't know because I see so many problems with humanity and with human suffering, and I don't wanna say it's like I care about human suffering, I care about animal suffering. I don't want to put anyone in a position to suffer where they don't need to, which is why I can't feel good about procreation. I always think that it's a fucked up thing to force someone into the situation and say, these now
so
all of our
even
problems are now all of our problems
sure,
are your problems too.
so you don't think
You
it
know,
would be good to procreate, even if it's the case that it ends up reducing rights violation and suffering? You wouldn't say it is good or at least justified to bring humans to existence, even if that's the
I
case.
just yeah, I can't bring myself to say it's okay to do this to this person for the problems we have
Well,
here,
Harry,
which
what
are
would your
not
threshold be? What would your
I don't
threshold in
know.
regards to what you can, what kind of imposition or harm you can cause onto someone for the greater good? What is your threshold? Do you have any like categorical kind of position in that regard?
I don't really understand the question. Can you tell me
Okay,
what you
so well, I'm trying to understand. So you would say, okay, it is justified to birth somebody into existence for the greater good as a whole, right? So I'm wondering what if you have any particular threshold on what you can do unto others in order to serve your goal of creating general overall well-being.
Sure, I'm sure there is a threshold. I just can't really think about it right now. I haven't
Okay,
considered
sure. Yeah.
this, but I'm sure there is a threshold. Sure.
Yeah, I look, I think you make a really strong case, and I maybe it is me being irrationally like acting purely with emotions and not with logic in this case. I have to think about it, but yeah, like have such a hard time feeling like it's okay to uh force someone to have to endure this for when they don't even exist yet. Like we have to force them into existence for this problem that's not theirs yet, I
Sure,
and then
man,
they
but
have.
you just gotta keep the alternative in mind. What's the alternative?
Well,
Yeah.
Harry, can I ask?
No sapient beings, just a bunch of wild animals, just existing in a pre-society fucking existence. No language, none of the goods of
I
civilization.
you know
Is
on
that
the
the
one
sort of
hand
planet you want to
on
leave
the
behind? Is that the sort of planet you want to leave behind?
on the one hand we could say, would any of us want to, yeah, I guess we have to decide, would we want to experience the suffering of those that are being brought into existence for this greater good, or do we
Exactly.
want to experience the suffering of the animals that will happen
Exactly. I'm
because
curious about
these
that. What do you think
exceptions
about that?
here?
I'm curious. I'm curious about your answer to your own question. That's a good question.
Yeah, and I don't know because I don't know how to decide which one's worse, you know?
So, what intuitively? Let's say just intuitively speaking, what do you think if you had to gamble? What would you choose to be the human with like capacity for language, with being a civilization with modern medicine, or just being a random wild middle animal in the nowhere with no help? Like, what intuitively sounds better to you?
Well, so the thing with wild animals, and I don't know this for a fact, obviously, but it seems like they don't have any, moral that they adhere to necessarily. It's possible they have their
No,
own
I don't take
ethical.
that view about animals. I don't think that some people claim that animals are not moral agents. I disagree with that.
So you think that they could think of themselves as evil or having done something evil or immoral?
Well, animals do possess empathy, right?
Yeah, and
Right,
they do
but
seem to have they seem to require a certain amount of moral agency to even function in groups socially, and if you're just gonna use my definition of morality, morality just comes down to personal preferences. So animals obviously have preferences.
right, but can they perceive of something as good or evil the way that a human,
They can prefer something or like prefer something or whatever, not prefer it, and
like, could they
basically
say,
is.
"Oh," could they say, "Oh, I feel could they feel ashamed? Could they feel shame? That, I guess, is the question.
Yes, I believe they can. I mean, I know there's been scientific research on rats, for example, in rat civilizations in which rats would actually provably show that they felt remorse or kind of would change their actions in regards to the well-being of another rat and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm
no,
not
I
Yep.
have no doubt
entirely
about rats.
certain on the science.
Yeah, and they
I've
seem
met
to
quite
like
a
they
few
seem
rats.
to exhibit altruistic behavior, stuff like that. There's all sort of like animal psychology research that seems to point that animals, yes, are some, they have a moral agency to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would never be able to force someone into the world. I just
Yeah, not
couldn't.
not
I
you
couldn't.
personally. So I don't even know if I myself am gonna procreate it. And like I
This
do
Harry,
something
can
good
I?
that others do that.
Yeah,
there's one. I wouldn't want to force someone to experience death. I wouldn't want to force someone to experience any of the bad things that I've experienced, and I've had a relatively good life compared to other people's, and I still don't feel like it was worth it. And
yeah, I'm in the
and
same
and my
position.
and my kid
Sorry
could
to
end
hear
up
that.
my kid could end up being a carnist. My kid could end up being a bully or a rapist or any number of terrible things. So like
Sure, but
we could adopt.
at least
What
if
about
they
a
at least if
what
they're
is
a
your
carnist, at least if they're a carnist, or if they're a carnist, at least, you know, I think reasonably soon we're gonna legislate against carnism. Like, could be off on that, but if they choose to be
Yeah, but
another
Harry, you
kind of
can't
criminal,
substantiate
but
that.
sure, I can't substantiate it. It's just my intuition. I'm just optimistic about it. I'm sure, but I can substantiate this. If there's some sort of criminal, it's more likely than not that they're gonna be like found out and just fucking put in jail for their fucking like crimes and shit. Where a wild animal in the middle of nature, not there's no consequences. Like, animals are gonna make each other,
Yeah, of course.
gonna be done about it. But a human, we have ways to deal with it.
Harry,
Yeah,
can I ask you? Sorry, Vegan,
Sure.
can I just
go ahead.
quickly? I want to ask
Go ahead.
Harry. So with your position in regards to birthing children being a greater good, I'm curious because to birth somebody into existence, right? To birth generations of people into existence, that requires that they live through life, suffer, and inevitably die, right? So it requires death as an inevitability. So my question is, with extinction, is what is the threshold that makes causing the extinction of all life on Earth currently in this moment, whatever the population may be, in order to prevent many future generations, much higher populations from suffering in the future? Why is that threshold?
I don't
Emo-
necessarily think it's gonna prevent that.
Sorry. Okay, but I mean, if we make the Earth uninhabitable, right? Like we destroy any ability for life to reemerge on Earth. Let's just say hypothetically, for the sake of argument, why is that threshold immoral, but the threshold of birthing many generations in the future to suffer and die isn't immoral in your view? Because both are
Because I think
generating the
it
prevention of
seems,
suffering.
well, you will be like violating the right to life on every being in the face of the earth on the on the first case.
Okay,
On the
but
second case,
you would
just
you would also
life
be technically you would also be violating the rights of the generations of people that are going to
no,
inevitably
I don't.
die, right?
I mean,
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
rights
okay,
violations.
the
whatever.
thing is,
Rights
That's
you're
it.
talking
violations. Let's
about
set rights violations aside for a moment.
you're talking about
Why do we have? Why do you value rights violations more so than anything else?
I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's just my
it
values
would
are.
reduce it would
Well, you
reduce
should know. I mean, you should understand what your values are,
Well,
right?
it's gonna be like a combination of like like psychology stuff, facts about the culture I was
Well,
brought up.
would you?
I
Well,
don't
why
know
do
what
rights
accounts for the values
exist?
I have.
What? I mean, there's a reason why rights exist, right? I mean, what would you say is the reason we have rights?
Yeah, so rights to me as a moral subjectivist, rights are is gonna come down to certain actions that I think
I
are
mean,
have
sure,
like
I don't
strong
disagree that it's.
strong negative
Yeah,
attitudes
I don't
towards.
disagree that it's subjective, but would you agree that rights are designed specifically in order to, well, I mean, there's two arguments. There's Sam Harris's position where it's, for social benefits, but then there's also the position of it being the prevention of harm. I mean, which side would you, I suppose, lean towards more?
Wait, what are the two sides? The two sides, sorry, got distracted.
So you can see rights as necessary entailment in order to prevent harm, or you can see rights as a necessary entailment for social good, right? To generate social, like welfare or whatever, so we can coexist in a way that benefits the progress of humanity or whatever, or even it can include animals also.
I think that's like some sort of false dichotomy. I don't think that's the only two possible reasons for rights.
Well, I'm not saying it's the only two possibilities, but I mean, those are the ones I know of, at least. I mean, my question is, like, what is your position on the benefit of rights, why rights exist, and why they should be valued more than anything else?
I just think rights, like, they account for strong preferences that people have, like a preference to not have their bodily autonomy violated, or a right not to be raped, like independent of whether or not it increases well-being or increases suffering or whatever. I think we should respect people's choices not to be raped, like, whether it's in their sleep without without them suffering or whatever. I just think it's something that intrinsically should be valued, like independent of the consequences.
Yes.
In
Okay.
that
Yeah, I
case, why
understand
can't
that.
you say the same thing about like forcing people here? I mean, like many people, I know not everyone's going to agree with this statement, but many people feel that they are raped into the world because it is without they don't have a will about
Well,
it. You know
Harry,
what I mean?
I mean, if you keep procreating, right, it necessarily entails that people will have their rights violated, right? Like, this is a necessary entailment. People will get raped. People will be harmed. People will
Sure,
have their
that's why
rights violated.
I'm not some sort of like pure deontologist. I also I take into consideration consequences as well. I do think that a certain amount of rights violations could be justified if the consequences are good enough.
Yeah. See, my position, I would actually be a little bit more negative utilitarian, because I don't really see any particular justification for overall well-being for the raping of a single child, for example, right? Like,
Let me test your
it is
logic on that. Let
necessary,
me.
well, it is a
So
necessary entailment, right? That if a generation exists, a child in that generation will be raped. So go on.
yeah, I just want to really explore your values on that. You say you're a negative utilitarian. Are you saying that if you had to choose between two worlds, a world in which everybody is like there's non-existence in this world, it's like there's nobody in this world, it's just a piece of rock, or a world in which like somehow
Mhm.
they ended suffering and everybody's like experiencing like insane amounts of well-being and bliss, and people are like fucking just having fun all day long and
Okay, but
doing whatever the fuck they want. No, I just want your
okay,
answer to this question, man. If you had to choose between the two
yes, no, I
planets,
understand the dichotomy. I understand it. I'm trying
which
to
planet?
answer.
I'm
Well,
just curious.
see, the important context in that hypothetical is the past of that utopian society, right? The question is, was a child raped in the past?
Let's
Were
say all else equal.
trillions
Let's
of
say
beings?
all else equal. All else equal. Like the same amount of suffering. Both planets went through the same amount of suffering. It's just that one planet like fucking holocausted themselves back into non-existence, and the other planet developed a way out of suffering. All of what
Well, see, the problem with that hypothetical is, like,
what's the
the
answer? I
question
just want to
of,
understand
okay,
what planet you
but
prefer.
let me explain. Well, I mean, if all else is equal, of course, like, it's not going to matter that the population that are living now that only experience well-being exists. Of course, I would be in favor of that, but that's not really the reality we're in, right? I mean,
a
I
true
don't
negative
really see how the hypothetical
utilitarian,
pertain.
a true negative utilitarian wouldn't care about the well-being. So they would like literally flip a coin. They wouldn't have a preference either way. So you do seem to
Okay.
value well-being
Well,
as well.
I'm glad you're pointing this out, because I have actually been kind of again, because I'm not that philosophically literate. I have actually been kind of conflicted between threshold deontology and negative utilitarianism. But I think, yeah, maybe in this case I would probably be more of a threshold deontologist then. However, I don't really see how that negates. I mean, first of all, I think it would be very difficult to make a case that pleasure in life supersedes suffering. I, I, I think it's much easier to make a case that suffering far supersedes pleasure in life. Right? I
At the end
think
of the day,
when you
my friends, it's just gonna come down to what our values are. Like I personally think that the goods of life justify the evils. You might not have that same view, and it's fine. It's not anything wrong about it. It's just that we would come down to
well,
fundamental
okay,
value differences.
that's fair enough. But in terms of your value system, I suppose the question is your belief. Does your belief outweigh that child victim, the child that was raped? Like, does it
Well,
outweigh, let's say, this person?
not my belief alone, not my belief alone, but the combination of the my belief in conjunction with the suffering that's gonna be prevented by one more human taking up resources on the face of the earth, the rights violations that are going to be prevented by having like less animals like on the face of the earth, by having more humanity and more human infrastructure, just taking all that into account.
Okay, I mean, I would say it's much easier, much simpler, and much more efficient to make a case for eliminating all life on Earth, because
No,
because it's very likely that the population, the generations that are to come in the future are, I mean, how many generations is it going to take in order for us to reach this perfect utopia, which I
okay,
don't
so
really
there's a couple of
believe
things
is
there.
even
So there's a
possible
couple of things
necessarily.
there that there's a couple of things there. So one is that I don't think we currently have technology to get rid of all life on Earth. Like we don't have that technology right now. If we want to develop that technology, the best way to do that is to procreate in order to find that technology in the future. And the second thing
Well,
is
not
that why
necessarily, no.
the second thing is that I don't understand why we would like why the end point would be our planet. I think we have the potential to make life a sentient life better in other areas of the universe. We have at least it's at least logically possible that we develop some technology to travel the
Well,
universe
it's also
and
logically
to
possible that there is
nice
no other life
vegan.
in the
Hubris
universe.
that I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
I said that's that hubris that I was talking about earlier.
Well,
Like
I don't see
Exactly,
it
it
as
is
hubris.
hubris.
It's optimism. I don't see it as
Well, it
hubris. Like,
is.
well,
I mean,
let me ask you this, man. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you something, man. Like, let's say you have two choices, two options. One world in which like we develop transhumanism and we develop technology to veganize the universe and we create like fucking pure paradise in the universe. Or it's the second option, we just become extinct and the rest of the universe just fucking left to be like godforsaken like fucking hellhole with animals warring each other.
well,
Let's say that this are
I
like
mean,
this what world would you prefer, man? I just want to understand what world would you prefer, world A or world B?
wait, I'm sorry, I don't fully understand the dichotomy. What was the second option again? Can you repeat that, please?
The second option is to go with extinctionism and just like fucking like kill off the only species capable to veganize other areas of the universe.
Well, first of all, I mean, you don't know we're the only species capable. Secondly, I
Exactly,
don't really
we don't know it.
see
So
how.
why err on the
Okay,
side of letting
well,
carnism
we
exist
we
in
sh-
other areas of the universe?
well, I feel like you're arguing in favor of me in a sense, because I agree. It's like we shouldn't be focusing on theoreticals that we do not know. We should only be focusing on what we already understand. Right?
No,
What we
I
understand
don't
is life
agree
on
with that.
Earth.
No,
Well,
we
I
should
mean,
be looking for ways to get leave this old dirt
So-
ball behind and fucking conquer
So
the
we
space.
should continue to have this immense amount of suffering occur in nature for many generations on the idea that there may or may not be other life in the universe. I mean, that just seems a bit absurd.
Well, it's not the only reason, right? That's a fucking straw man of my position. Like, my position is that there's other things that I
But how is
value,
it a
like
straw man?
the capacity. Because you're saying that's the only reason I'm in favor of continuing existence.
Well, no,
like
I didn't say it's the only reason, but I'm saying that
yeah, I value other
reasoning
things.
itself
I
doesn't
value
really
the
make sense.
capacity to produce well-being, the capacity to intervene in nature and make things better for others. There's a bunch of things that lead me to my position. It's not just simply
You know, and another
Does
thing
the
is
betterment of others'
things don't become
lives
things are
justify
not
the
very
immense
rational.
suffering of one individual?
sorry, one at a time. Yeah, I didn't get it.
Does,
Go ahead,
okay,
Liam.
sorry, go on. Oh, thank you. Okay. Does the betterment of other people's lives justify the immense suffering of one individual?
Depends how many lives we become better by that suffering. Yes, it's gonna be.
Well, why
It's
would it
gonna be,
depend how many?
or the
Because
amount.
you don't have a utilitarian position, so why would it matter
There
the
is
amount? How
some
can you?
I'm a threshold deontology. There is some utilitarianism in my moral system.
I want to ask.
Yes,
I
I
just want to ask
understand
a
that,
quick
but
question.
it's like
I want to ask a quick question. Harry,
Sure.
like, so if you know
By the way, I have
someone,
to go soon. I have to go eat, but it's been interesting.
okay.
I'd be happy to have a part two at some point, but like right now I'm pretty
Yeah,
hungry. But anyway, go
sure.
ahead. What's your question?
No, if so, I have like two questions actually. One is if someone was born or if you had a child and they got raped or brutally assaulted and it traumatized them for life, would you tell them, would you say to them, look, I know you didn't like that, but this was actually a good like it's all worth it for the this perceived greater good that I have. I think that it was worthwhile you having to experience that.
No. Why would I say that?
Well, because that's basically what you're saying is in general you're saying that it's a good thing for people, or you're saying
Well,
that those things.
I don't have to apologize for bringing them into existence, man. They're already in existence. Like, I be in favor of fucking finding that rapist and killing him with my bare hands, but I don't have to apologize for bringing that person to existence. I don't. There's.
It's
It's
a
like
well,
that's
yes, you do
responsibility.
because you brought them into existence knowing that that's a possibility, right?
Yeah, you brought that, so you are responsible for them being here.
sure. I don't know how I'm responsible for them being raped. That's part of the fucking. That's
Well,
the
you
rapist.
are
No,
you are
you're responsible
That's the
for putting
rapist's
them in
fault.
that risk. You put
you're
them in the
putting them
risk in
you
a
put them in
position
the
in which that
lottery.
can occur.
You entered them into the lottery is my point.
Exactly.
Sure. I did enter them into the lottery.
And
But
you felt like it was worthwhile. You felt like regardless of whether they won that lottery or not, it was worthwhile. So even them winning that lottery, would you say to them, "Yeah, I know it sucked, but it was worthwhile
so sure,
because."
yeah, okay, so yeah, I don't first of all, I don't have to apologize to the person. I don't think how my position entails me like verbally apologizing for bringing the person to existence. My position doesn't entail that at all. But like, yes, like considering the fact that obviously I'm fucking against rapists, I'm in favor of fucking like putting rapists in jail, fucking chemically castrating them if it's necessary. But yeah, just considering the amount of yes, it would be so a person that goes through that as horrible as it is, there is like a possibility for this person to, like to develop resilience and like fucking for their life overall when they reflect back on their life to to then value their own lives and to think it was justified to exist even if that negative experience ended up happening. Like a lot of victims of rape, like they're glad to
So
be
what
alive. They
about
develop resilience. They become stronger, and that in
Well, what about the
conjunction,
case of somebody who
let me finish my
isn't
point.
in
Let me
that
finish my
case?
point. Let me finish my point. In
Go
conjunction with
ahead.
the fact, that this person existing and bringing down wild animal suffering and rights violation through through like spending resources and like fucking taking up space for housing and whatnot. Yes, it is overall a good thing, even if obviously I disagree with fucking rape.
So then
Okay.
what if they are in fact are the rapists? What if they are the ones doing the bad stuff?
If the person I bring into extent is the rapist,
Yeah. Would you say,
And you
okay,
brought
this
them
is,
into existence knowing that they could possibly be that, right? You know that when you bring somebody into existence, they could possibly be a terrible person.
sure, it is a risk, but at the end of the day, yes, that fucking person should be in jail, and they're gonna be taking up some space as well by being in
Okay, but
jail.
how can
Like
you
that's like
justify that risk?
human
How can
infrastructure.
you justify the risk itself? Why
How
is the
do I just?
risk justified?
that wasn't even my question
It's
was
just
if
gonna
you
be
were gonna,
really true
well,
on mathematics.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
just
Actually,
gonna
let
be like
Vegan say his
no, no,
question.
my question wasn't even if whether about the justification. If, I don't know what that was.
the fuck is that?
I don't know.
Control.
My question really was about, um, do you like, are you gonna say it was worth it? Like, are you gonna
By
think
the way, I
about the
can do the
victim?
same thing to you. Like two people can play the same game. I can ask you guys the same thing. Like, how is it justified that fucking wild animals are like suffering immensely and being fucking raped out in nature and like being
Well,
fucking
are you
predated
going to
upon
say?
Well, I
Are you going?
completely agree. We should
by not
take steps
displacing
to
not
prevent
Yeah,
it.
displacing. So
I
let me
don't.
finish my
I
question.
want to
Let me finish
here,
my question.
Harry.
By not
Harry.
displacing them through humanity spreading. Like I can ask the same
Harry.
shit to you
I
guys.
hear what
How
you're
do you
saying.
justify?
I'm
But
not.
Is it justified?
I don't
Is
Yeah,
it
agree
no,
with
no.
justified to
this.
bring
I
wild
don't
animals?
agree with the position.
Justified. Our position, well, at least my position is we should be doing something about that. But I'm not in favor of breeding animals. I'm
To
not in
do a
favor.
way to do something about that, like possibly the only way to do something about it is for humanity to procreate.
Can you
I don't
substantiate
know
that
that
that's
that
the
is.
only
I
way?
don't know that that's the
No,
case, and
I said possibly.
I
I said
don't think
possibly the only way.
I can't say that this thing that I really have a hard time calculating or quantifying is and this idealistic utopia is worth me gambling, putting someone in one of those lotteries and saying it was worth you becoming a rapist, it was worth you getting raped, it was worth you having to do all these bad things or experience all these bad things. I have a hard time doing that. Now, I also want to say that we
Sure, but
become
I
pretty
can say the same thing. I
irrational
can
when.
say the same thing back to you. I can say the thing back to
Can
you
you
and
just
ask
let
you.
him finish,
Well, no,
please?
Do you
because I
think?
didn't
Do you think?
force.
Sure, sure.
I'm not forcing those animals into any situation. We
Yeah,
can't say
you're
that
leaving
me.
a godforsaken hellhole behind by stopping humanity from procreating. But anyway,
Well,
like
not necessarily.
I,
No. I mean, you
I
no,
have
can.
to
that's not
go, by the way.
necessarily
But
the
you
issue.
guys can say
Okay, yeah.
your closing remarks or whatever. I'm happy to continue in the future. But yeah, I just gotta eat right now. But anyway, you guys can say whatever you want to
Yeah,
say.
I'll let you go first, Vegan.
Okay, I can
Okay.
say
Yeah. I
my
mean, I appreciate you coming on here and doing this with us. I would just say I don't see how we can calculate this future, and I don't feel um, that I'm personally responsible for like all the future animals suffering and death because I don't want to like be responsible for entering someone into a lottery, and I don't think other people should be either. And I do agree that we should be working to mitigate animal suffering as much as possible. I don't see that bringing more humans here is necessarily the way to do that. Although I'm going to think more about that, and it is possible that you are right. I don't want to say that anyone has won or lost this debate. I think it's kind of up in the air right now. That's my opinion. And you can check this out on my channel Vegan Equilibrium.
Okay, you're recording in your end?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think I would agree with pretty much everything Vegan Equilibrium said. I mean, my position is that if you were to find substantial evidence that it would be viable to generate, a world in which only well-being exists and suffering doesn't, then if that possibility was substantially proven, and there was a real practical method of that, being a possibility, then I would be more, willing to side with your position. I just don't really see how. I'm sorry, I'm struggling a little bit. I don't really see how you can justify bringing a child into existence with what we currently understand, with the knowledge we as humanity currently hold. I don't really see how you can make a case for it being justified in the case of preventing wild animal suffering, because I do agree that we should prevent wild animal suffering. And I don't really necessarily believe that, like Vegan Equilibrium said, that procreation, bringing more human beings into the world, is the viable solution to that. I mean, I think it could very well be possible to do that simultaneously. I mean, setting extinctionism aside, I think it's very possible to reduce human population as we also create a method that reduces animal populations without causing harm. I don't know. I mean, anyway, I just want to say I have actually watched your channel for a while, Heri, and I love the work you do. I think you do a great job doing street
Thank you,
debates.
man. Appreciate it.
Ditto.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm glad
nice
we got to
talking to you
talk.
guys. And it was a fun, good faith combo. Yeah, so I appreciate your time.
Hey, if I ever get to Puerto Rico, I wanna come stroll on the beach with you.
Fuck yeah, man. Let's do it. Let's call out. Let's fucking destroy carnism in the beaches of Puerto Rico. Man. Let's do it.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Cheers.
Hey, take it easy, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.
And I would like to say,